The Hard Narc Life, Ep.2. We started off with the Stone Age, and now we're moving on to what I want to call the middle stages. See what I did there? Anyway, let's take a look at middle school. Now, for me, middle school was a mess, to say the least. Going into 6th grade, pretty good. I started at a K-8 school, so, I had been going my entire school life at the same school. Then 6th grade hits, and I'm like, wow, this is a completely different feel from what I'm used to. That transition from elementary to middle school is pretty crazy. You got 6 class periods now, whereas before you would have, only one and one teacher. So it's a pretty crazy situation to be put in, I guess. And it was really fun, man. I met a lot of my good friends for those years. In that year, well, I meant to say, I met a lot of my good friends that year, that I don't really keep in touch with anymore, sadly, but they were some of the best people I knew, and it was really great having them. I had a Minecraft class, which is cool. I could go into like a whole thing about that, but I think that's a story for another time. But essentially, 6th grade year was really good up until the very end. I want to say just before the 4th quarter of the year. I had a situation come up where my history teacher, Mr. Peterson, I believe was his name, really cool guy, swell guy. Essentially he filed an assault charge against me. I know, shocker, right? No, I was shocked too. I was very shocked. But turns out sometimes as a kid you're not allowed to sharpen your pencil, jump around, I say jump around, but what kids actually jumping around in school? I don't know, I guess I'm not, as a kid, allowed to be a kid in his classroom. So yeah, assault charge filed against me, for intimidation, I believe. As a little kid, yes, a grown man intimidated by a little kid. I see it. But essentially what that meant is within the week, literally like the weekend passed and now I'm at a new school. So that was an experience. Moved to a new school, a very low-key school, not like popular by any means. But see, this school was really cool in my opinion. The community there was amazing. Everyone was so nice to you. Obviously you had those few people who were just not very nice, but for the most part everyone was very kind, very genuine. And I really loved going to that school. Only downside, there were uniforms, but honestly, at the time, I didn't really care much. I mean, I showed off my style in my socks, so that was cool. I had a whole thing going with that for a while, but the main point I want to get to for this is middle school was a doozy, right? I finished out 6th grade as the new kid at the very end of the year. It was very awkward. Then I go into 7th grade, and I'm not so new anymore, but still pretty new. And the few people I did hang out with were all girls, and it was very different from what I was used to, because I used to hang out with dudes all the time. But really what became of that was I had my first girlfriend in 7th grade, which is crazy to think about because that's so funny to me. Like, what even is a girlfriend at that age? You know what I mean? But turns out it's a lot at that age. So the truth behind that is I didn't want to be with her. And the reason why I was with her was because of all those friends I had that were girls who peer pressured me into being in a relationship. And I didn't want to be. But, I mean, it is what it is. We're kids. What's the worst that can happen, right? Well, essentially, this girl somehow knew what a relationship is and what it could be and what you would do in a relationship. And she would want these things from me. She would want hugs, hand holding, kisses, things like this. And I didn't want to do that because, in the first place, I didn't really want to be with this girl. But then one day, we didn't have a teacher in our band class. So we got moved to the art room for the period. And this was like her perfect chance, I suppose. Essentially what happened was she got her friends to hold me down so that she can take my first kiss away from me. And really what that is when I lost all control of my life in that year. That's really what that was. From that point on, I was too scared to really say anything. I just kind of went with whatever she wanted, And it's like, at that young of an age, to experience that is crazy, Like, people really think that these kind of things only happen to certain kind of people in certain kinds of situations. And it's really not true, And it's not something that I walk around telling people like, hey, I was sexually assaulted by my first girlfriend. It was really cool. It's like one of those things that I kind of just try to forget because, I really wanted to have my firsts be special to me and they weren't. So, it's a thing. But being the type of guy that I was, or I am, I try to make my situation as good as I could. I said, you know what? If this is how it's going to be, then, I'm going to make it the best that it can be. And, I did everything, I went all out for Valentine's Day. I still remember that day. That was crazy. I went all out for that day. And, yeah, it was just like, I tried to forget it, how it happened, and try to just, hey, I got a girlfriend. That's cool, But, yeah, and then things ended. I'm not really sure. I don't really remember how it did, but it did. And then COVID hit. And that's like the kicker of this story is like all of those relationships that I've had since I was born up until this point have not really been good, whether romantic or platonic, right? And then COVID hits and now I'm by myself. Hours and hours on end. And there's really no one to be around or talk to besides my family. And I love my family to death, but I need some social interaction. I need people, And all that through 8th grade, end of 7th grade through 8th grade, it's just a lot. And really what became of that is I went into freshman year with depression and it was not good. But to sum things up, the middle stages, I made the best that I could. I made them the best that I could, but in the end, things happened that shouldn't have happened, that I didn't want to happen. But it is what it is, because in the In a day in the Narc's life, shit happens, right?